All right, so welcome back to another episode of the Loose Cannons USA. And today we are going to be talking about the North London Darby that just took place this past Sunday.
Yep. 2-2 draw. Honestly, Tottenham gave us a run for our money. And they've had a good start to the season. Let's see if they can keep it up. But for right now, I don't think we had a bad game. We just ran into a hot team.
Yeah, definitely. Both Arsenal and Tottenham, both having good starts to the season. And it was a good game. We drew. Unfortunately, I think that being it was our home match, I definitely wanted to come out with a victory, definitely with 3 points playing them at home. But, two teams in form, both at the top of the table right now, and it was a good match. And looking at the game, both sides play well. You could argue for either side, who had the better chances, who should have won. Personally, I think it could have won either way. But from an Arsenal side, an Arsenal point of view, I feel like, we bit ourselves in a foot a couple times, offensively and defensively. And if you're Tottenham, you're probably thinking, the same thing too. But overall, it was a good match between two informed teams, and we came out with a point, better than no points. But like I said, it almost feels just like a loss because we're playing Tottenham and it was a home match, and we know the expectation on us. So, obviously not the worst, but from our point of view, I think 3 points was what we wanted, and it almost feels like a loss because it's not what we wanted. It's what we came for and what we didn't get.
Yeah, it's another setback on the league table overall. So far, we've dropped 4 points. And, hopefully it doesn't come to bite us in the end. 4 points isn't crazy to make up over the span of the season, especially at where we're at right now. So for the time being, it should serve as a wake-up call that we can't, I shouldn't say sleep on anybody, like we're talking about. This is a informed team, both sides, but we really need to capitalize on their mistakes and minimize our mistakes. Like our second goal against, I should say, Jorginho turning it over. He tried to be too fancy. He had so much space on the ball and so much time. And what he did, he tried to make a little move around Madison. He tried to bait him, and he messed up. And that was it. Quick little give and go. And it's in the back of our net, 2-2 game. And now we're talking about dropping points here on this episode.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we bet ourselves in the foot a little bit coming out. We'll start with the second, the second goals for each team. We come out with about 5 minutes into the second half. We get a PK, we score. I think a minute and like 20 seconds later, Jorginho has the ball. And from my, perspective, I don't know why he was subbed in for Rice. I think they were talking about a potential injury about Rice. Who knows? But he came in. I don't know if he was cold, whatever. It's 5 minutes in. We just scored. He's not, maybe they're not ready. And he loses the ball to Madison, who just plays Son one time, and the inevitable Son scores. But you know what? Goals, like we say, goals like that, it's going to happen. And it's in the future, it's going to come, as well, too. So there's not much we could do about that. Obviously, Jorginho has to do better. That's on him. And I know he knows that. The whole team knows that. But we're a team. If one person messes up, the whole team is at fault, and that potentially lost us 2 points. Obviously, there were other parts of the game where we could have done better, but that was really the deciding factor because it was the game tying goal in the, I believe like the 53rd minute, like around that. So
Yeah.
looking at it, it's an error, but we trust our teammates. Mistakes are going to happen, and we just got to look forward to the next. But let's talk about those first goals being scored. And the first one, which Giuseppe and I were recently talking about, Kyle Saka's shot that was deflected by Romero and turned into an own goal. Classic shot, Saka down the right side, cuts in, goes for the far post. Probably think it was going to be on target, but the goalie's probably going to save it. But when you put the ball on target, only good things can happen. And, we got a goal out of it.
Yeah, and even if Romero's not there, you see you have Eddie and Vieira running in front of Vicario. I think they would have tapped that one in, or at least put it back on net. It forced Vicario to make a save. If that was going straight on net, there was a chance it was going in, but I think it was savable. But thankfully, Romero was there, and I guess Arteta maybe give him a couple bucks, put that in his own net. But no, seriously, as I guess you're more the defender here. You're just trying
Mhm.
to clear that one out, right? And doesn't
Yeah.
go your way. Thankfully for us, it went in. So, like you said, it was a nice run down the side from Bukayo. I think he had an excellent game, and not just from the goals, but from just his play in general. So,
Yeah, Saka's always very creative, always, flashy on that wing. You know what he is made of, going down the sideline, cutting in, getting crosses in, getting shots in, and he's overall, we know what we get from him. He had another good game. And now going to Tottenham's first goal, it was Raya in net. He was involved in that play because he had a good save. And I will say Raya, of course, this is another thing to talk about after the goals, Ryan and goalkeeper, but he had, a save where he kind of just tipped it up and the ball went out wide. And the two people that are the stars for Tottenham right now starred in the North London Derby. James Madison gets the ball, beats, I believe, might have been Soccer, someone,
Saka.
to the end line, gets a cross in between three Arsenal defenders. Hongmin's son, it's inevitable. It's always going to be him. Comes in, taps it in, posts it in. You know,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there's stuff we could have done better defensively, but you look at it and it's almost like two good plays from Tottenham's two best players. Their most creative player, James Madison, who has been phenomenal for them so far, who was always a phenomenal player on Leicester, but he gets an assist, and Son, who is now their go-to guy since Kane is gone, scores a goal. So the two people you were probably worried about that game were involved in the first goal and the second goal. So go figure. But
But
it's there's always stuff to be fixed defensively, but on the end, sometimes it's Tottenham. It was a good goal. They worked hard for it and they got it.
like you said, it was a nice goal, but definitely some things they could have done to prevent it. On that play, Raya did all he could. Nice tip onto the bar. And then White tried to clear it. There was a shot, point blank, right at Raya. Stood tall, made the save again. Rice tried to clear it, didn't get it far. Got it to Madison. Madison took it down the line, beat Saka. I think it was the only time I could complain about Saka this game. It's early, but you never know. I think he should have been a bit more physical. I'm not saying take a card, but if you have to, in hindsight, with it leading to a goal, I think if he took a card there, it would have been understandable. Even if you just, you know, miss the ball a little bit, you're still outside the box. I'd rather be a free kick there than have that play happen. And then Son, he had nice movement, but we have three guys there. One of them has
Mhm.
to pick him up. Saliba, Gabriel. I think White was in the right spot, but
Rice was
Saliba
in
has
that
to be
mix.
aware. Yeah. Saliba, I think, has to be aware. Gabriel has to say either stay with him or say to Saliba that he's coming in. They have to constantly be scanning. And normally I don't have any problems with them, but minor things at the speed of the play that they're playing at, certainly not easy, but I think it's fixable.
Yeah, definitely. Everything is fixable when you look at that play. Like you said, Saka, maybe he could have went a little bit harder. And, Madison got the best of him and he put a ball in, dangerous ball in, and Sun scored. And looking at that 1-1 half, and I thought, like I said, Raya started again in net for Arsenal. In my opinion, I think that he's doing a good job. I just don't understand the reasoning behind it, as I just think that Ramsdale has done nothing wrong and he's been good, and he's before the Everton game he had 52 straight games for us in the Premier League. But Rice first half he made some good saves and he saved a bunch of goals. There was one specific play where it was crossed in and it looked like a sitter, and Raya dove across the net and slapped it out, and it was just a phenomenal save by him. But like I said, I don't think there's much difference between him and Ramsdale, but he had a good first half. He made his saves. He didn't do anything wrong. He did his job, which is what we expect. That's the depth that we have at Arsenal now. players to come in when called upon and do the job. And, I also look in that goal. I'm not sure from your perspective. I'm not sure if maybe he should have tapped it out for a corner or maybe he saw someone to tap it to. I don't really know. But Raya, I thought had some pretty nice saves in the first half.
I played excellent these past 3 games that he's starting, but like you said, seems a little unfair to Ramsdale. Clearly, Arteta has a plan. It's been working. 2-2 draw. The way he played, honestly, you got to give some credit to him. Even if he let up 2 goals, you just talked about some of those saves that he made. Kind of unbelievable, 1 or 2 of them. But yeah, it's a shame for Ramsdale. But this is the competition. He said, bring it on. He accepted the challenge. And here we are. For whatever reason, Arteta wanted to make that switch. And he's running with it now. And still undefeated end of the day. So I wouldn't blame it on either of them. I wouldn't say Ramsdale did anything wrong. But I guess Arteta needed a change in the lineup, maybe spark some other guys. And here we are now, seeing Raya get the starts for 3 games in a row.
Yeah, definitely. Like we always say, we trust Arteta. He has a plan going on. We don't know what that is, but we trust him for a reason. And that being said, another change we see is that, Fabio Vieira starting in the middle for Havertz again, who actually ended up getting subbed at halftime with Rice off as Havertz and Jorginho came on. So that was another little change that we saw. But I thought besides that, our starting lineup was pretty good. But another change that I thought was kind of interesting. I know Trossard was not available. He was injured. So we went with Gabriel Jesus as the left wing on the left wing and Eddie up top at striker, which was kind of interesting because we know we still have Reece Nelson and Smith Rowe, who are 2 players that are still available. But I guess he wanted to give Gabriel Jesus a start at left wing.
Yeah, it's interesting, but when you got a guy like Gabriel Jesus, it makes sense why you start him over a Reece Nelson or a Smith Rowe who haven't been playing. It seems like Smith Rowe and Nelson, they've moved into more of a depth role, especially this season, as Smith Rowe's only gotten minutes, mere minutes, probably not even 10 in the last 2 games combined, Champions League and Premier League. And Nelson's only been on a handful of times as well. When they come on, they'll do their thing. And they've played well in the short time that they've had. But Gabriel Jesus is Gabriel Jesus. Costs a lot of money, and he's played the wing before. It's nothing too new to him. And he's got that Premier League experience more than them. So it makes sense why Arteta would go with that, even if it's a little strange.
Yeah, definitely. We paid the money for him and he is a good player. It's good to have that versatility from Gabriel Jesus too. But looking at it, obviously another option that we were missing was Martinelli. And right now, Arsenal are dealing with, a handful of injuries when you look at the big picture. Obviously, Timber, who we've talked about early in the season, he's with that ACL, he was gone. Thomas Partey has also been missing now for, several weeks. Don't know his time to return. Martinelli, another player. That's 3 starters right there. Now, supposedly Rice did something. Do we know what happened? Not 100%, but those are 4 starters with all injuries that we don't know exactly their timeline. I think Rice is more of the, less one out of all those. But and Trossard, another one. I mean, the injuries
Yeah.
kind of are piling up at the moment, which normally would be a big concern. But looking at this game, we have good depth. And that game against Tottenham was with all these players that I just named, besides Rice, who played, but a lot of players were missing in that Tottenham game. So that's something to keep in mind as well with this 2-2 draw. But going forward, like I said, we do have good depth, and that's what we need, especially with our EFL Cup game coming up, our Champions League game, and then obviously back to the Premier League. We're going to need that depth. But hopefully all those players, Martinelli, Trossard, Rice, Partey, hopefully their timetable for coming back is in the near future because games do start to pile up. But like we said, this opens the door for players like Reece Nelson, Fabio Vieira, who's getting a lot more time lately. And of course, the one, we're waiting for to get a lot of minutes, Mill Smith Rowe, who got some minutes in the Champions League and he got subbed on in like the last second of the Tottenham game. So hopefully, those players get the time they deserve in this absence because we know they have the quality. And that's the reason why they're at Arsenal is because they have the quality to start or play 90 minutes, 1 minute, whatever it might be.
Yeah, you put it perfectly with the depth. Only thing I would touch on, Kai Havertz. I know,
Mhm.
especially me, more so than you. I haven't been talking the best of him, but even with the infamous 007 joke, he has been looking better. So I think it's only a matter of games, a matter of time before he puts one in. It's not easy to watch right now, but you could definitely see the improvement from game one to now.
Yeah. I mean, we know the quality that we got with Havertz and some of his struggles ending the last few years at Chelsea, but I do see improvement in his game as well. And I think that just goes with an overall, maybe starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. But yes, we are just waiting. I especially waiting heavily for him to get involved in an assist or a goal in the build-up play, leading to something just ever so slightly. But do think it's coming too, especially with all these midweek competition games coming in. I think that he's going to have a big chance to produce for us and get that goal that he so desperately needs for his confidence and the team's confidence in him and the fans' confidence in him. So I do think that that is coming as well. And I think with all these injuries, he's going to have the opportunity to do it as well. And our next Premier League match, I know, will be coming up against Bournemouth. So that is going to be a good opportunity for a lot of players to get some time in our next Premier League match.
Yeah, it definitely is. And against Bournemouth, as you said early on in the season with some of these teams, it's one of those games like the PSV game. We have to just hammer them home. And even with our depth, I think it's still possible. So, you know, we go into this game, we rack up a few goals, and we leave, and we move on to the next one. I don't see it as much of a challenge. Obviously, as always, the grain of salt. It's the Premier League. Anything can happen, but again, one of those games.
Yeah. So looking at it, I know we've got a little bit of time before that game comes, but with all the injuries, I'm going to include that Rice will be healthy. What would be your starting lineup for our next Premier League game against Bournemouth
With Rice being healthy,
with Rice being healthy?
that makes it a little easier. I would get Ramsdale some time back, even with how Raya's playing. It's always good to even get a game here and there. If he's not going to be the main guy coming up, at least keep him ready. So I would go Ramsdale in that. I would go Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, and White. If Rice is healthy, I would go with Rice. If not, we need a more defensive guy in the midfield. I would go start with Jorginho. Even if he made that mistake, he's still Jorginho. So, but if Rice is healthy, Rice. I would go Odegaard. I would give Vieira the start again. And then on the right, Saka up top. I'd go with Eddie and I'd go with Jesus on the left again, just to start, get them all rolling. And if we knock a few in, we knock a few in. We start getting guys like Reece Nelson or Smith Rowe in and go from there. And
Yeah,
you?
I think a lot of mine is going to be similar, but yeah, in net for me, I'm going to go with Ramsdale. And we've said this the past several games, but I think I just want him, and I think he deserves to start Ramsdale in net. Back line with Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, and Ben White in the midfield with Rice if he's healthy. I'm actually going to go with Rice, Havertz, and Martin Odegaard. I think with Havertz improving, I think, give him another start, see what you could do with more time. and then Saka on the right. I'm going to go with Eddie up top, and I'm going to go with wild card here, which this is going to be a lot of bias, but I'm going to go with Emil Smith Rowe on the left wing. I know he's scratching for minutes, but with all these injuries, I think it's a great opportunity. I want him to start. I think that he should get a start in there.
That's understandable, yeah. Against a team like Bournemouth, I think it definitely is more of a chance to happen with all these injuries. Maybe you want to rest Jesus. Champions League coming up later that week. So definitely could see it happening.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to have the Smith back again, starting.
Yep. Nice to get ESR back in the lineup. So
Saka and Emil Smith Rowe.
Saka and Emil Smith Rowe. We want to hear that chant going. But as always, we got to go against Bournemouth and we got to get the 3 points. And that's where we're gonna get a lot of goals, and that's what we're gonna do. So, as always, come on, you Gunners.